So these are the things that have stuck out to me so far. Nerve cells that fire together, wire together. Knowledge is for the mind, experience is for the body. Neurochemically condition the body. So what is that? What does that mean? Neurochemically condition the body. What that equals is like a ritual or a habit.
Changing your response to get a different chemical reaction from your body. Instead of getting the, I'm going to get crazy, adrenaline, it's going to go to another one, calm or something.
Well, it doesn't do it naturally.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to walk through this so that you understand it in a way that you can apply it. Because there's a whole bunch of information there, and you may never be able to fully understand it unless you break it down properly and understand what he's talking about. So, a way that you can neurochemically condition the body would be, for me, let's say back in the beginning, when I first started in recovery, Thursday night, Friday night, whatever, a certain time that the techno starts coming on the radio, back in the day anyway. And the minute I would hear it, this flood of endorphins, memories, thoughts would overtake me. And so I would immediately have to capture that and then take action to shut it down, which would be change this channel. So there's a mental, and then there's a physical. That's how you neurally or neurochemically condition the body. There's a mental decision to capture a thought that invokes a feeling or an emotion. And then there's got to be a physical action as well to divert you from going any further with it. You have to have both. And both of those things are things that you have to make a decision in your consciousness to change. And then you got to physically act it out as well. How many things, remember we talked about last week, whatever, the pat or the nudge or whatever it is, where we may acknowledge it here, but we don't take physical action, therefore it's void. Delayed obedience equals disobedience. Same exact thing. So just because you acknowledged it here doesn't mean anything. Not only does it not mean anything, but you have got to do both of these things consecutively for, I don't know how much time. Science says 30 days. Somewhere around there. But it depends on how bad or what it is and what you're, who knows. That's for like creating habits or getting rid of habits. Where it goes from something that you have to consciously make a decision to do to where it just happens automatically.
Yeah, I was going to say, do it so much where you're creating a pattern or a habit for yourself that it just happens immediately. Instead of when that thought comes, getting all anxious or flustered or whatever, and then that thought consumes you, and then you don't know what to do.
Right, because then you're you're stressed, your body's stressed, which when your body gets stressed, it means that you're heading to disease, or as Dr. Mike will call it, disease. You know, your body's a mess, you're out of order. This is very ironic that even order is in this video, because it's pretty cool, and I'll explain it to you when I get there. I mean, there's some awesome things in this, but that is just the forefront of changing your mind. It's that ritual, that repetition over and over and over and over again, which means that it's not something that's pleasurable. Change in the physical mindset or in the mental mindset, based on who we are, where we are, is not something that is perceived as pleasure. Not initially, anyway. It's something that we have to force ourselves to do over and over and over again until we succeed at it. And you see, a lot of people will equate failure to that process between mental and physical, and then they give up and don't do it anymore. That's why we have a bunch of really screwed up people roaming the earth. They have no idea that they have the power to change. They don't have to go see a doctor. They don't have to have lots of money. They are equipped already with everything in which they need, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so neurochemically condition the body. It means I stop what I'm doing and I go into a different direction. Repentance, if you want to use a biblical word. But mind and body working together, or being in that same plane and that autopilot, you know, that's where he gets into describing what being is, the state of being. The beginning of that state of being, the beginning and the end, are two very important things. What state means is that it's a place that I am not currently. So we talk about this with Tony Robbins. Whoa! And he does pump it up, whatever. Changing your state. Getting up, doing some jumping jacks, using some oils, breathing techniques, whatever it is. It means that I'm getting into a different place than I currently am. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So that I can be. Be what? Who I am. And that who I am is when it happens naturally. It's in complete order. The body and the mind functioning in order. Because if you look back at this and look at what he said, this first part, when he's talking about the thought of the mother-in-law and this and that, what it's doing is it just begins to release the chemicals in your body. That first part of your brain is in charge of what? Releasing chemicals to your body. So that's kind of important to know that. Because most people don't think that, or at least most people think that, you know, they have to had experienced the whole thing to have a body react in such a way that it puts them in that position. So they call that denial. And they live in a state of denial. And we've all met those people. We've all been that person. Where we think we know whatever. We are living in a state of denial. To get out of it, we need to change our state. That's what conditioning is. We're changing our state. Let's see. Memorizing internal chemical order. Oh, I love that one. That one gets me juiced up. So, by conditioning ourselves, our body, over and over and over and over and over again, because we're saying capture, reflect, and redirect. No, that's not what that thought means. This is what it means. No, that's not what that thought means. This is what it means. No, this way. No, this way. No, this way. We are memorizing the internal chemical order of our body. Who knew you had that kind of power? I thought only God had that power. Guess it depends on what God you're using. That's huge. Once we reach that place of memorization, that is called state of being. So it's the difference between working to change and not being affected or infected anymore by thoughts, emotions, feelings, whether they be ours or anyone else around us. Now we can be who we are. We're not allowing these outside things to trigger us, to infect us. See, that's what's crazy about it. It doesn't matter. It could be his issues. It could be the guy driving down the street in front of you having issues. It could be someone else's issues. It could be politics and that issues. You'd be amazed at what gets people away from who they are. It could be perceived issues. Based on something that they've put in their mind through their filters, not really filters, but through their ears or through their eyes. They've seen something so many times, or heard something so many times, that their subconscious just believes that's the result of something. So when you actually get into that situation or whatever, your body automatically reacts to it based on the information in which you placed in it, or maybe based on how you grew up, or based on where you work, or society, or whatever it is. See, it's not your fault. Until you get into a place of knowing where you came from. Now it becomes your responsibility. There's a big difference between fault and responsibility. And what moves you from that moment is acceptance. Of what? Who you are, where you are, based on when you came in. So you say, I take a responsibility in this. So now what does responsibility mean? It means that I see it, feel it, know it, understand it. Now I have to take action to it. And so you can never, ever, 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 ever hear the truth and then unlearn it. Because if you've heard it once and you accepted it as truth, meaning who you are, where you are, based on your testimony is the truth of anything. We've accepted it. We can't unaccept it. I'm David. And everyone's looking at you going, dude, you're Jason. Oh no. David. It's insane. Well, that's the same thing. So what do you think that type of insanity does to your body? When the chemicals and everything that places you in a position for sickness, disease, happens at the beginning. Your thoughts can kill you.
Basically telling your thoughts, basically telling yourself things that are not true. It jacks your whole brain up, and then you have to relearn everything that you've been taught. You have to repeat the cycle all over. Which I've had to do many times. Well, I mean, it's true. If you telling lies about somebody who you're not, you're reverting back to really before you even came in here. Going way back, and then you have to restart that whole long process again to get back to where you're currently at. It's right here, right now. In this moment. Not yesterday, not right here, right now.
This is the only moment.
If you're up in your head, you're thinking, you're not being, and you're not right here.
Spell check. It gets like a couple letters in it and it puts a word with it. That's what your subconscious does automatically, which is like assuming subconsciously. So you're not even in control of it. Which is then in return telling your body how to react before you ever even gain control of the current thought.
Yeah, he said the body is the subconscious mind, and that the chemical reaction, the body doesn't know whether the lion's in front of you. The body doesn't need to know if you're physically there. If you're having the same mental reaction, the chemicals start to happen. So that's why I try to tie it into the rubs being the opportunities. Because the rub is a chemical reaction. Your body kind of get into the defense, fight, or flight mode. That's your opportunity to use metacognition, to be self-aware. Okay, my body is telling me don't like it. Why? Opportunity to get the new neuro pathways to click.
And so that's it. That's a very important key I want you guys to understand. Just because you're telling yourself to think something different. I'm ugly, I'm good looking. I'm ugly, I'm good looking. Huh? You know, it's like, just because you're telling yourself something or you're filling your mind with brain, or you're filling your mind with knowledge doesn't mean anything. What means it is when you take action to it. And I say, all right, now, no, that's not it. This is it. And this is how, now here comes intention, like Paul was talking about. Now I'm gonna take intention in presenting myself or my thought or my action in a different way. I'm gonna put myself in a position for constant rub or for constant change. Because that's what I'm doing. Because our body subconsciously is always trying to get away from change, to get away from conflict. And every time we succumb to it, we're bowing down to it. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And we're saying, that is master. And until we face it head on, deal with it, get through it, do that process over and over and over again, now we take in that place somewhere of forcing ourselves to think and do differently, we get into this place where we're observing, observation versus participating. It's called a new level of mind. We're creating a new level of mind. Now that's the actual metacognism, or whatever it's called. That's where we're kind of standing on the side of ourselves, watching ourselves, kind of an out-of-body experience. We begin to matrix, see things before they come, because we are positioning ourselves to live proactively. And it's like we have another sense that no one else has. And so a lot of people will go through life saying, well, they just have that naturally. And that's not true. That's the story, the lie. The truth is that they position themselves to overcome whatever it is. They reprogram themselves so that they can be in this place where they can observe things like a glitch before they actually happen, which is the breathing in before we communicate. Gives us that control. It's one of those tools. So, first comes the thought, and then after the thought is intention. And whatever thought that becomes intention is the loudest, that's when we get the neural growth factor. Let's see if we can pump some of that neural growth factor up in these bad boys. But the crazy thing is that you can't, there is only so much of it, and that is the key to the other part dying away. Because whatever screams loudest gets the glue. Whatever screams loudest gets the attention. Here comes a thought in my head. Where did this come from? Did it come from me? Did it come from my maker? Or did it come from someone else or society or whatever? And then based on that, I can identify what I need to do with it. Get rid of it. Turn away from it. Accept it. Take action on it. So the power of intention, like Paul was talking about, that's the action between decision and change. Three frogs sitting on a log. We make lots of decisions in life. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. But there is extreme power in intention. It's actually a universal law. power of intention. Doesn't matter who you are, where you are. If you understand the power of intention and apply it to your life, you will succeed in whatever area that you're applying it to. Let's see. Controls chemicals is the first part. Auto-suggest. Your body is your unconscious mind. So it's like the mouth lies, but the body doesn't. Thing that I say all the time. Body always tells the truth. You can know exactly what's going on with someone. It's irrelevant what's coming out of their mouth. How was your day? How you doing? Oh, I'm good. I'm good. But the body is like not in sync. It's obvious. We call that the undeniable. When we examine the undeniables and we accept them, we begin our journey of restoration. And during that time, we also know who we are, where we are. I love when he talks about, when you take captive of your thoughts, capture, reflect, redirect, or whatever, we're changing our mind. So we are changing our mind. And when we do that, it releases a chemical called feelings and emotions. You didn't expect that to come out of a scientist's mouth, did you? But that's the deal. And people think opposite. People think it's the feelings and emotions that cause things to happen. And that's a lie. That's the story. The second part, so we have thoughts, feelings, and emotions, then memory comes next. And he goes into talking about 9/11 or different things. When you go into shock, then you remember everything. Why is that? Because it changes your state.
All hands on deck. Focus.
See, we get into this place where we're wired subconsciously, whether we accept it or not, to flee from change and flee from conflict, and we get into our own little groove of what we perceive to be happiness or success or whatever it is, and we get into a very sick disease called complacency. And in complacency, what complacency does is it masks, it desensitizes all of our senses. And so we don't remember anything when we're in that place. It's like being under the influence. And so the very thing that people seek in life is the thing that is killing them and making their life truthfully not worth living. Because it's when you grab someone and you say, hey! You change their state, and what's a person do? I mean, it would take Alex a year to get over that very experience right there. And so we remember every little bit about it. and we allow it to infect us. But in fact, that very moment is what we should be seeking constantly. We want to be in a constant state of change, not complacency. I mean, I can remember beginning of recovery, first 5 years at least. Things would start going good. You see it in every recovery center, treatment center, work, halfway house, discipleship home, church. It doesn't matter where it is. When someone starts to do good, it could be someone that was sick, they were in the hospital, they got out, and now they're starting to feel good and they're coming back, like, someone that has a heart attack. Okay, and it really puts them on their back, and they have all these amazing self-revelations, right? And then the farther they get away from that place to what they conceive as health and happiness and all these different things, they forget everything that they learned back there. And so it's something that you have to force yourself to remember. And recovery is as soon as the guy gets a job, start working out, protein powder, tanning, going to the beach, they completely forget in a very short period of time who they are and how they got to their current position. And then before you know it, wham! Train. And everyone else around them could see it plain as day. But they refuse to accept it. So they have to feel the pain, which is what you were talking about earlier. It's like you're watching it happen. So you got to pinch yourself a lot. While I was talking, for me, it was the importance. It just continues to drive the importance of knowing who you are, where you are, based on where you came in the spiritual realm and in the physical realm. Because if you are constantly knowing that, you don't have to worry about getting hit by a train. And if you're constantly knowing that, that means that you're in a state of change. You're constantly looking to see what you can improve on. You're not walking around going, man, look at me, I'm pretty good. I got 90 days, I got 6 months, I got 1 year, I got 10 years. We don't allow ourselves to get in that place. Because when we get in that place, we're blind. And so we've already talked about the fact that you cannot unlearn the truth. What is truth? Testimony. So you cannot unlearn it. So why do we forget? Because we're under the influence of what? Our subconscious that's releasing chemicals into our body. Just as if we were Xanaxed up and alkied up or whatever, and we just seem to miss everything. But it's the same exact thing. So it shows you how much more control you have over this moment, which is the only moment that you have. And every day, in every moment, you have no excuse for your obedience or disobedience. They do the studies with the individuals that break bones or get into bad accidents or are born certain ways with like no arms, no legs. And you got one guy over here who's chronically depressed and diagnosed everything under the sun and classified so that they can get all this medication and federal help and all these things. And then you got another guy over here that has the exact same problems. But he's been telling himself a different story. And he's married, he's public speaking, he's doing all these things that this guy believes that he could never do. What's the difference? It's their mind, it's their thoughts, it's their acceptance. It's their level of clarity, not their level of understanding. Because this guy over here, he's probably read every manual, he's probably got all the understanding in the world. But he's controlled by fear of that understanding. Where this guy over here said, I don't understand anything. I don't know what you're talking about. Just because I don't have legs, that doesn't mean I can't swim, or I can't get married, or I can't drive a car, or I can't do this. I'm doing all those things. Is he stronger? I don't think so. It's the same mind, the same chemical order, same thoughts, same society, same environment, same all these things. Instead of calling it the metacognism, we'll call it the matrix. Because that's just what I picture in my head.
Well, what's meta? What's the definition of meta?
Meta means changing.
Could it mean in control of? Like metaphysics, metacognition. The metacognition is
The root word of
it's
meta is change, transformation, metastasis, situated behind. And as they put that before a lot of words, like metamorphosis is metaphor. Metaphysical is of or relating to metaphysics based on speculative or abstract reasoning. Abstruse.
just seems like it means control. You're observing yourself with metacognition. You're the one in. You've made a decision to control the change. Even with metaphysics, in the book we read with Joe Dub there, it was you had control to change.
Yeah, well, the first thing that you have control of is what? Positioning yourself for change. What's that? Showing up. If you don't have control over anything else, you have control over getting your physical body in that position that's surrounded by life change. And just doing that begins to change you, which is authentic community. But eventually you learn that you have the power and you start making other decisions. And that's what an intervention is. An intervention is that definitely state, changing your state. And the boy says, "Oh, I really didn't like that intervention. It was really hurt my feelings, and y'all could have just come to me." We had to change your state. We had to put you in a position so maybe you could hear something, even if it was just for a second.
And even the I don't like that is the chemical body, subconscious mind reacting.
No one likes that. Of course not.
by the perfect.
No one likes to be intervened on. It's like, hush, I will now speak and speak over you and more right and more truth. Or no one likes that. Whether it's in an interaction or it's in a life event or whatever. But yet, even that in itself does not allow us to position ourselves for restoration. Because how many people have heart attacks and will go right back to smoking and eating at McDonald's and doing all these things within a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks? How many people have drug addictions? They have a friend die next to them. They go to jail. The minute they get out, they're right back at it.
I knew a guy who we were smoking one day, and like he was dead, like no pulse, no breathing, no nothing. We took him to the hospital, and they resuscitated him. And as soon as he became consciously aware of where he was, he pulled the IV out of his arm, got up, signed himself out the hospital, and goes, "Anybody got some tune?" Which is what we call spice tune. And we were like, "Dude, you died."
Well, what's worse, the fact that he went right back to it, or that you were sitting next to him and watched it and continued to do it? What's worse?
The fact that I continued to do it.
I mean, for you it's worse, yeah. Which is all that matters at that moment in time.
Because it's kind of like you see what it did to someone else. Why are you still doing it? And then also, both of them are really worse in the actual literal terms of it. Because, I mean, I saw what it did to someone else and I continued to do it. And then he died and then still was resuscitated and then still continued to do it. It's like, are you trying to kill yourself, basically?
So you saw what using that could do to somebody. You experienced it because you were right there with it. So you knew it. And you can't unlearn truth based on your testimony. So what caused you to go back? It is the huge. This is the brick to the face for people that think knowledge is power. That's why memorizing things or positioning yourself in such a way that you're hearing data or facts versus hearing the truth as it applies to your current position.
Instead of just getting caught up in what he's saying, seeing what's truth to me, instead of just basically writing a script out of what he's saying.
Yeah, I mean, I could have just pressed play, bro.
Yeah.
And if I wanted that, I just would have recorded it, and then that's what we had. And so that's what you have to do, is make sure that you are positioning yourself now. Because now we're in this control of change. And so I'm going to the meeting or to church or to hear Rabbi or to Denver or to hear wherever people pay thousands of dollars to go to these life-changing events, but they don't position themselves properly. And so one guy over here, he paid the same $3,000 as this guy right here. But this guy, he walks away saying that doesn't work. And the other guy walks away and changes his life. He becomes a multimillionaire and changes the world or whatever. What was the difference? The information was the same. Their potential was the same. How do I know that? How do I know that their potential was the same? Because I believe that we were all made by one creator, and we were made in his image. And that image is not different for each individual person. It's the same. It's the constant. See, when I know who I am, and where I came from, I know what I can do. And guess what? That changes your state. That gives you power. So you don't just say something. You follow through with it and do it. Why? Because you know who you are, where you are. And each time you do that, you build momentum. And so those old lies and stories about how you're worthless or you can't do this or you're going to fail or yada, yada, yada are all dying at rapid speed now. Because the hardest thing to do is what? Don't get it confused with the easiest thing to be. The hardest thing to do is start change. Because you are going backwards and you're going to try and go forwards. And so it takes a little bit to reverse the momentum, which is energy. So what is fear?
Emotional response to something that you believe.
No, this is pretty concrete, black and white. This is like dictionary worthy. Fear is a memory. It's gone beyond the thought, beyond the emotion or feeling, and it's now a memory. Whether it's real or not is irrelevant.
Same as a filter.
For the most part, yeah. It is a memory, the memory of. So if I'm seeing things through that memory, that filter, then yeah. So the difference between success and failure of anything in life is always rooted in fear. So
I like the quote from the dude. We don't fear the unknown, we fear leaving the known. Which would be the memory, the filter, where the fear is leaving the current comfortable place. We're not scared of what might happen. We're
right.
scared of leaving. We know what is happening.
It's like when you find out You know, and you can sit over here and just keep singing grace, or you can position yourself I was reading behind one of these videos. I was reading all the comments on YouTube, and down about 100 comments into it, a lady says something about grace and love and Jesus or something, and the response was classic. Whoever responded to her said, "Come out of your cave." Well, that's kind of what it's like when we position ourselves in that place where we are thinking that we've reached this place of never having to change anything else again for the rest of our lives, or that we've reached this place of perfectionism where it must be someone else's fault. How could it be mine? For I am perfect. For I know all, and no one can speak truth. So how did some of this stuff ring true or whatever to some of the more recent things that we've been learning?
When we do stuff like this, man, I'm tying together bits and pieces from all of it that I know to be true, whether here with you, Sims, Jeffries, Joe Dub, Rabbi, whatever craziness I've gotten on YouTube or whatever, that's what happens for me, is the tying it all into one.
Yeah, but see, that place is the medica whateverism. It takes a while to get there.
Oh yeah.
Some of these guys, most of them, are still in this place where we categorize.